Well, guys, it certainly does look like jail time is a possibility for Mark Zuckerberg in the future.
This is a great victory for the First Amendment.
Elon's got 8 lobbyists, like 11%.
How do you process that?
I process it is that Zuck is writing this to us, to Jim Jordan, who is going to chair the hearings. He knows what's coming, and he has the lobbyists up there that they have their ears on the ground. Lobbyists don't only talk to our elected officials, they listen to them. And I think Zuck knows exactly what's going on. There are stories out there and there are statistics out there that Instagram had and still has a pedophile problem.
And we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to ask you guys if you think that Mark Zuckerberg is honestly remorseful for censoring the American people on Facebook. Meta, he's blaming the Democrats. He's blaming the government, the federal government, for the censorship on the platform during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Is it okay for, how old is Zuck right now? 39? Has he hit 40 yet?
40 right now.
How old is Zuck? Zuck
over under 40.
Okay. I mean, he's
40.
Okay, he's 40 years old. So 2016, he's what? 32. 2020, he's 36. One of the smartest guys in the world, worth a couple $100 billion. Okay. Does he have the right to change his mind and sincerely be wrong?
Yes.
Does he have the right to do that? Yes?
Not only the right,
Yes,
but the
of course.
obligation, like all of us.
Okay.
Everyone should.
But the point is, like, he can still change, right? He can still change and say, hey, I effed up. I effed up with my move on what I did. He can still do that.
Correct, but we don't have the obligation to forgive him. That was my point.
I'm totally with you. So, okay, that's great. We don't have the obligation to forgive him.
But let's hear from Donald Trump, because he's got some news for us recently.
So Mark Zuckerberg called me. First of all, he called me a few times. He called me after the event and he said that was really amazing. It was very brave. And, and he actually announced he's not going to support a Democrat because he can't, because he respected me for what I did that day. I think what I did maybe was to me, it was a normal response. But I was called by Mark Zuckerberg yesterday, the day before, on this same subject. And he actually apologized. He said they made a mistake, et cetera, and they're correcting the mistake. Google, nobody called from Google.
By the way, if you guys haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button for the video. Thank you so much for sharing this video and for subscribing to the content, subscribing to the channel. Now, this is very interesting, guys, and we're going to go over this. Basically, it's an apology letter. At least it seems like it's an apology letter. I want you guys to let me know what you think it is, from Mark Zuckerberg, who's the founder of Facebook, Instagram, Meta. He just admitted that the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris, I don't want to blame Tim Walz for this. He had really nothing to do with this. So we'll just keep it at the Biden-Harris administration, for basically pressuring his teams to censor content and political opponents on the platform.
The CEO of the social media giant Meta revealing that his company censored some of its content around the COVID-19 pandemic. Mark Zuckerberg says his teams didn't want to, but they were under serious pressure from the Biden administration, and he is telling members of Congress that this will not happen again.
Facebook's parent company now says he regrets agreeing to requests from the Biden administration to censor content related to COVID-19. In a letter to the...
Now, again, real quick, do you guys, just quick comment, jailed or fined or both? Do you think that Mark Zuckerberg should be jailed? Do you think that he should be fined, or both, for censoring the American people and interfering with an election? I want to hear from you guys. Drop me some comments down below. Some folks are saying that he should be jailed. Others are saying that Mark Zuckerberg should be at a minimum fined. Other people are saying both. But then a fourth group is actually saying that Mark Zuckerberg should not be jailed, should not be fined, so long as he cooperates with the investigation and exposes the federal government, the Democrats, the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden administration for what they did with regard to the election during 2020 and the censorship, possible interference, and things of that nature. So in other words, if Mark Zuckerberg cooperates with the investigation, that he should get a pass. So let me know what you guys think on that in the comments down below. What I do want to talk about, though, and here's the thing, guys. If Donald Trump wins this election, this is really a game changer, because if Donald Trump, and this is kind of why I was thinking he is apologizing. If Donald Trump wins this election, Donald Trump could bring him up on charges. And we're already starting to see this possibility right here. There's a letter written from Meta, really from basically Mark Zuckerberg. And it says here, let me pull this letter up for you guys. It's dated just a couple of days ago, August 26, 2024. As you can see, Meta's at the top left-hand corner. That's the header, so you can know it's legitimate. And this is written to the Honorable Jim Jordan, Chairman of the Committee on the Judiciary, United States House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. Chairman Jim Jordan, I appreciate the committee's interest in content moderation on online platforms. As you are aware, Meta has produced thousands of documents as a part of your investigation and made a dozen employees available for transcribed interviews. Further to our cooperation with your investigation, I welcome the opportunity to share what I have taken away from this process. So he goes on to say here, there's a lot of talk right now around how the U.S. government interacts with companies like Meta, and I want to be clear about our position. Our platforms are for everyone. We're about promoting speech. He didn't say free speech. We're about promoting speech and helping people connect in a safe and secure way. As a part of this, we regularly hear from governments around the world and others with various concerns around public discourse and public safety. In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, so this is where he's basically letting the cat out of the bag and basically exposing the Biden administration, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden's administration, for what they did. So in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree with them. So it looks like there was some initial pushback from Facebook, from Meta, from Mark Zuckerberg on this. But ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take the content down, and we own our decisions, including the COVID-19 related changes we made to our enforcement in the wake of the pressure. So interesting. So it wasn't the government that made Facebook, Meta, Mark Zuckerberg take the content down. They're admitting that this was their call. Facebook interfered. He goes on to say, I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. And see, this is why it was like a cover-up. And I feel like it's these whistleblowers that really come out and expose what's happening behind the scenes. He goes on to say he regrets that he was not more outspoken about it. I also think we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. Like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction, and we're ready to push back if something like this happens again. So basically, now it sounds like Meta, aka Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, is threatening the federal government. Look, if this happens again, we ain't gonna play ball. Very, very interesting. And in a separate situation, the FBI warns us about a possible in a separate situation, the FBI warned us about a possible Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. And this is where the allegations of Facebook, Meta, Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg interfering with the 2020 elections, it being Mark Zuckerberg or Meta or Facebook's call. He said earlier in the letter that it was their call to take down posts. It was their judgment call to make. And this is almost pretty much like admission of guilt here with regard to interfering with the 2020 election. So I want to reiterate this for you guys. In a separate situation, the FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, We saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family. We sent the story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we should not have demoted the story. We've changed our policies and processes to make sure that this doesn't happen again. For instance, we no longer temporarily demote things in the United States while waiting for fact checkers. Okay, well, that's a nice, interesting shift and change in policies. How many of you guys have ever been in Facebook jail? What is that like? And typically, what kind of posts have you made that ends up landing you in Facebook jail? I would love to know if this will continue, or will you be less likely to end up in Facebook jail going forward, given this letter coming from Meta. Now, let's just finish up real quick. There's a little bit left on this second page of this letter to House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan. Apart from content moderation, I want to address the contributions I made during. Apart from content moderation, I want to address the contributions I made during the last presidential cycle to support electoral infrastructure. The idea here was to make sure local election jurisdictions across the country had the resources they needed to help people vote safely during a global pandemic. I made these contributions through the Chan Zuckerberg initiative. They were designed to be nonpartisan, spread across urban, rural, and suburban communities. Still, despite the analyses that I've seen showing otherwise, I know that some people believe this work benefited one party over the other. My goal is to be neutral and not play a role one way or the other, or even appear to be playing a role. So, I don't plan on making similar contributions this cycle.
And I wish in the last part of that letter that he didn't say I won't be making a similar contribution this year. I wish he said he won't be making any. Because people popped up immediately. Similar, you mean the same dollar amount similar? Or if it's 5% less, you're saying it's not similar. So there's a lot of words that people like me looked at it with kind of a legal eye and picked things out in this letter. This letter is Zuck getting out ahead of it.
Very interesting take, guys. So it looks like Mark Zuckerberg is respecting the fact that Donald Trump is a strong competitor here in the 2024 presidential election. And it's very possible that Donald Trump finds his way back into the White House. Donald Trump, along with J.D. Vance as his vice presidential pick. We've just recently had Tulsi Gabbard just yesterday. I think it was yesterday, providing a significant endorsement to Donald Trump. In addition to Tulsi Gabbard providing an endorsement, we also heard from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr., providing a substantial endorsement, getting behind Donald Trump. And here's the thing, guys, and we're seeing this trend emerge. We're seeing more and more Democrats cross party lines. Apparently, these Democrats are waking up. They're realizing that the party of the Democratic Party apparently isn't what they originally signed up for. And they're coming to terms with it by saying, hey, enough is enough. I can't continue down this path of super far left wokeism, and they're deciding to get behind Donald Trump here. This is what we're seeing. What we're also seeing is what we believe to have been Mark Zuckerberg being a strong supporter of Democrats, seemingly joining the bandwagon, recognizing Donald Trump as a strong contender here, possible the future president of the United States, and apologizing for his involvement, apologizing for their decisions, whether they were made in error or just due to, lack of information, a bad judgment call, whatever you want to call it. Meta, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg is clearly apologizing and trying to get ahead of this thing here, because it looks like it's very likely we're going to see Mark Zuckerberg on trial here. And mark my words, guys, if Donald Trump and JD Vance end up getting into the office, don't be too surprised to see the likes of Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Kamala Harris, Jack Smith, who has recently brought up an indictment for Donald Trump. We thought that the Florida case was over, but Jack Smith has essentially initiated a brand new indictment against Donald Trump. So we're going to hear a lot more from Jack Smith going forward. Even after the Supreme Court's recent ruling with regard to Donald Trump's immunity. So we're going to see, and this is what I predict. Let Donald Trump become president of the United States. We're going to see Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Hunter Biden, Alejandro Mayorkas. We're going to see, oh my God, we're going to see Jack Smith on trial. We're going to see, who is Jack Smith's boss? Jesus, the name escapes me. Anyway, we're going to see a lot of heads rolling. We're going to see a lot of people come up on trial, in my opinion. And even if it's not a trial, there may be trials that come up. But first, at a minimum, there will be a thorough investigation into all of the dealings, all of the engagements, interferences, interactions with regard to the DOJ, the Department of Justice, whether or not the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris administration leveraged the Department of Justice, the Secret Service, the FBI, and the CIA against a presidential nominee, against a presidential opponent in the name of Donald Trump, to see were they actually behind all of these fake trials that miraculously came up and attacked Donald Trump for the last 18 to 24 months. And that will not be the end of it. Kamala Harris is the border czar. We have information that shows that millions upon millions of illegal immigrants have entered the United States over the last couple of years. And just recently, basically because they were losing in the polls, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had decided to make a change in their border policy. And all of a sudden now they're all about taking care of the border, sealing up the border, and addressing those issues that many Americans like myself have had concerns about. Well, within the last 30 days, there is information that has come out that has shown how the United States government was using military aircrafts through the cover of the night, basically flying in like 30,000 migrants into the country. And they were each supposed to have like legitimate U.S. sponsors and people that were guaranteeing to provide for these folks financially, to provide housing for these people. Turns out this was all a massive fraud. There was like, for every 100,000 people that were flown in, there were like 3,000 people that were sponsoring them. So this is far from being that one-to-one, one migrant for one sponsor ratio that was supposed to be done. Additionally, we found that this report found that many of the identities were linked to dead people. So basically, dead people were being listed as the sponsors of these migrants being flown into the United States using taxpayer-funded money on military aircrafts. And this is how they got the numbers down at the border. Instead of bringing them through, instead of the number of illegal crossings spiking at the border during this presidential campaign to make Joe Biden and Kamala Harris look better, they decided to fly them in through the dead of night on military aircrafts. That way they couldn't be tracked. So don't let the data fool you. The numbers of illegal migrants didn't go down. So I'll save that for another video. I think we have enough here, though. I do want to hear a little bit more from Fox News on this apology letter from Mark Zuckerberg to Donald Trump.
This from Google. They said this fact check was initially applied to a doctored photo showing the Secret Service agents smiling, and in some cases our systems incorrectly applied that fact check to the real photo. It has been fixed. We apologize for the mistake. Both companies have been under fire all week. Both say this was not deliberate. And one of the things that we're learning now is that really AI doesn't seem to be very reliable when it comes to breaking news. And the rest.
Wow. So what do y'all think about AI? Can we trust AI? I feel like AI is incredibly dangerous. Not only is artificial intelligence stealing jobs, but if you've ever seen any kind of movies like iRobot with Will Smith, or any of these futuristic movies that showed artificial intelligence taking over, it's very concerning, especially when it's not policed. At the same time, I don't know if I want our government being the ones that police AI. Drop me your comments, guys. Let me know if you think Mark Zuckerberg should be jailed, fined, or both for his involvement with this election interference. And let me know if you think Mark Zuckerberg should get a pass for helping the government. If he helps the government to engage in this investigation. That way, hopefully going forward, we can solidify and protect the First Amendment rights and the freedom of speech of the American population. Let me know, guys. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video. I'll see you on the next one.